examples on objects, and I did this for books. So I have the variable books, the title, the design of everyday things, so the author non-normal, and already read is false. I also have a variable for that. And another one with the most human, the Brian Christian, already read is true. So I have the code for var, I, 0, I is less than 2 point, I plus. So going on, like if the book is already read, then it prints console.log, you already read, then there's certain book that you read, then there's the else statement, then you're saying you still need to read so and so. Like, so if I run this code, then you say you still need to read The Design of Everyday Things by Don Norman, and you already read The Most Human by Brian Christian. So if you want to try to type this out, then you can, but another example that isn't here right now, but another example that I had was like var airplane. So a type of airplane is Boeing 777, let's say, destination Amsterdam. And another one is Boeing A380, destination Africa. I mean Zanzibar. If traveling in is true, then say console.log, like you are going to Amsterdam with the Boeing 777, which is the plane type, which would be replacing book info, and then else console.log, you, like your son is traveling with the A380 going to Zanzibar, for instance. So if you want to try out this code, it's up here, but otherwise Chase has already some other examples with DOM. So try out this code. Try and typing it out. Okay, so my variable is books, and I have the title, The Design of Everyday Things, with the author of Don Norman, and another variable called Already Read equals false, and another book called The Most Human by Brian Christian, and already read is true. Then I have the for loop, saying the variable is I equals 0, is less than books.length, I plus plus, and then the variable book equals books, then the I. So I have the if statement as well, saying if you've already read the book, then print out you already read this book so and so with the book info, which in this case would be The Most Human, and the else statement saying you still need to read the other book that there was, which is The Design of Everyday Things. So if I run this code, then I get you still need to read The Design of Everyday Things by Don Norman, and you already read The Most Human by Brian Christian.
In this example, I kind of got a little wander around a bit, so the code is a little bit more. First of all, I have a button. Now this is really kind of messy. So then you can, a button is an object. When you're doing HTML, you're signing objects. The body is an object, except it's not quite an object. They're all tags, but certain tags like the button, the DOM, which is Direct Object Management. So that's where in HTML and JavaScript, both you can make objects. So in HTML, if you wanted to make a certain type of object, like a button, that has set properties in the native code, you do this. You type the tag name. And yeah, that's just a start one. So if you want to try this out, which I recommend it, so then you type the tag name in, you'd add its attributes, you would add its inner HTML. So every element, like if this is our button, we can imagine it as a box, right? So we have a button here, and then this is buttons, inner HTML. HTML, since it's a web page writing language, then it's easy. So you can just type in text as long as it's not something already set like a tag, and it will just appear there. So we could say, or it could be be high. Attributes are things that are set to the object. So you don't just have to have HTML inside of it, you can have JavaScript set to it. So like inside right here in the tag, there's a tag name, which I don't know if that counts as an attribute, but then you can have different attributes. Like the button object has a special one called onClick. You close the button. There are lots of other attributes, like ones that can be given to any element. There's even a title attribute, which means whenever you hover over that element, it will give you a little message saying something. So this is how you use an attribute. You give the attribute name equals quotes, and then like whatever it calls for. Or you just give the attribute name and then what it calls for. In this case, onClick calls for some JavaScript. So we can put alert high, we can put nothing there. We could put alert high and then semicolon, and then put another pop-up box, but that would be enough. So I would say document the get element by ID. So that's getting as a function method that calls for an ID. Then I'm saying P1 because the ID of this paragraph is P1. Then, so everybody typing that up. Everybody's typed that up. Right. Then I'm setting its attribute inner HTML. I know it's kind of weird with there's both inner HTML and like you can just type inner HTML in there, but I find it useful. Equals, then I'm sending the inner HTML to cool. So I'm saying this P1's inner HTML. So now we have P1's inner HTML as a whole, and then we're saying it's cool. So, and that's just, you could even type in a button here, but that I didn't go that far. You can type in whatever HTML you want here, and then so as you can see, this is just in the button tag. That was its attributes. Then we have this is what, and then so that's the text that appears here because this is the inner HTML, and then we close it. So you see we have a button that has its onClick set to like set the inner HTML of another element to something else, and its inner HTML is set to a bit of text. So that was our first button, or second, but still first. Everybody's typed that up, right? Is anybody still writing? Today? Yeah, because that was a lot. Anyways, looks like everybody's ready. So then I have another button. Let's see what this button does. So when we say click me, it says open a cool window, and it says okay. And then I set this window some attributes. So this is a little more complicated, even though there's less code involved. So I set this one's JavaScript to, well, an if statement. So if, and then a confirm box is like alert, except it returns true or false. Everybody's got that, right? Okay. And then it calls for a string of text to display when it says, when it's asking you what you want to do. In this case, that's open a cool window, as you can see. And then we close the string, we close this brackets. Then, so that's basically, if you say okay, then call this function open cool window. And then we also set its title attribute to open cool window, and then we set its inner HTML quickly, right? So that's what we get as the usual at first. And then, so if we see what open cool window is, this is in script. So if you open a script tag now, then we can do this. So we have open cool window is a function, doesn't call for anything. It sets a variable win for a window equals Now this is where it gets a little funny. Window dot open, and then this is where you would put the, like if it's a new tab or not, or if it's just on the regular page. This is where you put the URL is what I was going to say. And then this is so it's the width and the height. So you really just need to type quotes here and here, and then you set the width and the height like this. So that opens the window that has the width 300, as you can see, and the height 200. So everybody's good. Okay, now this, ignore everything in here. This is just me writing the HTML to put in here. So this is pretty simple actually. I put win.document.write. So you know how we can do document.write or document.write-ln? Well, we can do that to this certain window. And then I wrote this HTML in here. You can write your own HTML in there. You don't need to write any of that because that's just, my HTML code. And if you try and type all that up, it's just going to get tiring. So everybody's got win.document.write and then your own stuff in there, right? So then, oh yeah, and to make sure that this button works, we have to have this paragraph in the first place. So we're setting its ID, that's another attribute, to P1 so that we can access it when we want to style it. Calling class, you could say P for paragraph. You could say $P1 for an ID, but in this case I just use its class name. So you do dot, and then cool was my class name, right? So inside style, this is CSS, like a lot easier. So CSS3 came out with like animations and stuff. CSS was basically made to make styling, like so you can set certain styles instead of having all these tags and all these attributes. You can just set it all inside this one little tag. So now inside these curly brackets, we have our color set to this hex code I happen to know. You can set it to any color name basically. Like you can say, instead of this number 0000FF, you can say blue, you can say red, you can say green, violet, maroon, any color you can think of, pretty much. That's one part of it. Then we have to have our semicolon here no matter what we do. Otherwise, the rest of this stuff won't show, and I don't think this will either. So then we have our text shadow. This is another CSS3 styling kind of thing. You don't have to do all of this, by the way. You can just do color, because that's all you'll really need to start. Then you can check out the other ones and see how they work on W3 Schools, which is a pretty good reference. So we have, we're setting our text shadow to, it's 0 pixels offset in X and Y, and then it's 6 pixels pretty much wide, I guess. So if we were to set this to 0 pixels, it wouldn't show. If we were to set it to 100 pixels, it's a little blurred, so you can't really, that's 1,000 pixels. How about 10 pixels? Then you can see it's a lot wider and more blurred. So then 6 pixels worked well for me. You can do whatever you want. And then we're setting the color. So you can just replace this with blue, red, whatever color you want. So those are two things in CSS that you can use for styling. There's some other ones I used here. I used font size. So if we were to change this, then this is going to be 10 times as small. And you can't read it. And I'm not going to experiment with 500 because that's probably going to get a little funny. So then we have also our font family, and then you can have whatever font you know of. So Monospeaks works any font like that you can think of. You can look up some fonts online. Any font on your computer, you can put it right there. So that's how that works. You could do impact too. That's another popular one, or cursive, or